Now, let's go to Jahan Lewis in Studio B with updates from around the world.
Debris from an out-of-control Chinese rocket landed in the Indian Ocean Sunday. It's common for rocket debris to fall back to Earth. However, concerns arose because the Chinese couldn't control the return.
If you're going to send things up into space, and you know they're going to come back, you want to have a controlled re-entry, not an uncontrolled re-entry. And it's not that hard to do.
The 98-foot-long rocket was on its first of 11 expected missions. Experts say that the re-entry of the rocket debris is part of a bigger problem. More crashes could create clouds of space debris, which could cause damage to other satellites and astronauts. Rockets were fired toward Jerusalem from Gaza this week. Gaza's Hamas rulers threatened the attack as Palestinian protesters clashed with Israeli police in the city. So far, more than 300 Palestinians have been wounded in confrontations. They were fighting the evictions of Palestinian families from homes they have lived in for years.
We are continuing to closely monitor the violence in Israel. We have serious concerns about the situation.
This week also marks Israel's capture of East Jerusalem in 1967. Israel was going to hold its annual Jerusalem Day parade, but Palestinians considered the parade a provocation since it fell on the final days of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Israeli officials eventually canceled the parade. Thousands of Colombians continue to protest new government policies. The mostly peaceful protests have taken a deadly turn lately. At least 26 people have been killed. Human rights groups warn of increasing abuses by security forces. Demonstrations first erupted on April 28th after the president introduced a tax plan that squeezed the middle class. The plan was withdrawn, but the protests continue to grow. Some experts think the anti-government unrest could spill over into other Latin American countries. The pandemic has left millions without jobs, creating more tension and anger. As India's COVID-19 cases continue to rise, calls for a nationwide lockdown are increasing. The health ministry reports a total of 336,000 new infections and 3,756 deaths. Many hospitals are suffering from shortages of oxygen and beds, while morgues and crematoriums overflow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to face backlash for allowing large gatherings and holding large election rallies in the past 2 months. Many Indian states have already imposed their own lockdowns, but a nationwide lockdown still hasn't been ordered. Chinese authorities continue to search for one of 3 leopards that escaped from Hangzhou Safari Park on April 19th. Deputy Mayor Wang Hong says the animals were spotted late last week. The park initially denied the escape because they didn't want to lose visitors. 2 leopards have been found. Authorities are investigating how they escaped. Meanwhile, they're urging people to stay indoors while the search for the last leopard continues. Reporting from Studio B, I'm Jahan Lewis.
62-year-old Joseph Valdez, a former drug addict, was able to turn his life around. With the help of the Salvation Army and graduates from Cal State Long Beach, our reporter Kimberly Garcia has more on the story.
After 30 years in prison, 12 months in rehab, and 7 years in school, Joseph Valdez graduates from Cal State Long Beach with a bachelor's in sociology.
The same amount of energy that I put into finding and using drugs, the same amount of energy I put in all aspects of my life, and especially my schoolwork.
Valdez turned to the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center of Anaheim to help him on his journey to sobriety. Lieutenant Tanya Garrett, the program administrator, played a huge role in transitioning Valdez to a new life.
Right? A gangster. He was a gangster at one time, and then now he is a gangster for Jesus, a gangster for education, and so that just makes my heart happy.
Students and staff stop Valdez as he walks through campus to congratulate him. Valdez serves as an inspirational student for Cal State Long Beach. He motivates many to persevere through hardships despite their past.
It touched me to do things that I need to do, and it's never too late, and no problem is ever too bad for you to overcome.
Valdez is now looking forward to starting his social work master's program at Cal State Long Beach. Reporting from Long Beach, I'm Kimberly Garcia.
Mattel wants people to send back their toys when they're done with them. The company started a toy take-back program called Mattel Playback. The program will reuse materials from old toys to create future Mattel products. This is part of their goal to become 100% recycled, recyclable, or using bio-based plastic materials by 2030. For people interested in participating in the program, visit the Mattel website for a free shipping label. For now, Mattel is accepting Barbie, Matchbox, and Mega toys. More brands will be added in the future.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating reports of a steering problem in Honda Accords. The issue involves more than 1 million Accords, and the bug can cause a car to veer out of its lane. There have been 107 incidents, including 2 accidents that involved crashes and injuries. Accords from the year 2013 to 2015 are affected, and a recall has not been put into effect at this time.
Amazon says it blocked more than 10 billion suspected counterfeit sales on its site in the last year. The numbers were released in Amazon's first report of its anti-counterfeiting efforts. This pandemic forced many people to shop online. Amazon said it spent more than $700 million last year on its anti-counterfeiting efforts and had 10,000 people working on it.
Normally, around this time of the year, the Antelope Valley has thousands of people visiting their beautiful poppy fields. But this year, the bloom never happened. Our reporter Sophia Lesios found out why the poppies are staying dormant.
Last year's poppy bloom was magnificent, but with less than 2 inches of rain since January, the Antelope Valley poppy fields experienced a sparse poppy bloom this year.
Well, we really only had one good storm there at the end of January.
California state climatologist Michael Anderson says California's weather is extremely unpredictable.
We have the greatest year-to-year variability of anywhere in the U.S. And in fact, Southern California does the best at this, going from a year that's crazy dry to a year that's crazy wet.
Many poppy tourists were upset to find out that the poppies won't be blooming this year. Singer and social media influencer Wymack came from Las Vegas, Nevada to see the bloom.
I was expecting a lot, so it was so terrible to see how barren it was.
Blooms like those of the recent past years are actually abnormal for the Antelope Valley. Sergeant Matthew Williams, a ranger for the California State Parks Mojave sector, says the flowers won't bloom until next year.
Pretty much everywhere. For there to be a really good bloom, we need there to be at least 10 inches of rain for the water year. And this year we are at just a fraction over 2 inches.
Since the poppies aren't blooming this year, there are other California state parks that are offering camping, trail use, and other activities. Reporting in Lancaster, California for Valley View News, I'm Sophia Lesios.
When we come back, a CSUN sustainability class organized a beach cleanup called Leave No Trace. Also, a family-owned restaurant struggles to survive during the pandemic. Stay with us.